Good afternoon, boys and girls. I know most of you already saw this in class, but in case you missed part of it, you weren't in class, or you just need a refresher, I'm going to go over our PowerPoint again and the directions. So the very first thing, each of you has been assigned a topic. As I present, watch and listen carefully. Do not tell anyone else what your topic is. But remember, you have to make a timeline for all 7 of those events, so take a few notes on each topic, but pay close attention to yours. Tomorrow, after you create a timeline, you will draw a cartoon about your topic, and that will be your assessment on Ireland. I know we went over this the other day, but just a refresher, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland are 2 separate countries, and clearly, we have it in conflict. There is conflict between the 2 countries. Specifically, terrorism. So we talked about, most people don't even know this because, number 1, it doesn't really affect us in the United States. And number 2, ever since 9/11, we have some stereotypical Middle Eastern terrorists in our heads whenever we talk about terrorism. But it's not true. Terrorism comes in all shapes and forms all around the world. So again, here's another map of Ireland, Republic of Ireland, which is its own country, and then Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom. The 2 separate groups in the 2 countries are Protestants and Catholics. Now, we talked about this a little bit with Israel and Palestine. Although there are 2 different religious groups, the conflict's not necessarily over religion, but it does take play. If you remember, Israel and Palestine, that conflict was over land. That's mostly what the conflict is in Northern Ireland also. And here we break it up. Catholics and Protestants. They are both Christian religions, but they're different sects of Christianity. But we see almost 50-50 here, right? There's almost as many Catholics as there are Protestants in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, which is England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. 54% of the population is Protestant. I just said, it's about 50-50, so the conflict can't be over religion. 44% is Catholic, and 2% is other. Northern Ireland is very close to the United Kingdom, and the location of Great Britain and Ireland has led to a long history of interaction, and not always good. Key dates. The 1100s, settlers from Britain arrived in Ireland. The 1600s, British settlers moved into the Northern Ireland section. Late 1600s in England, Protestant William III, he took control of the throne, so he became king. He took it from a Catholic in a revolution. So now that he has control of Britain, he also has Ireland, and he wants to make his rule mostly Protestant. At this time, Ireland is very much Catholic. So Ireland kind of becomes, Irish people don't have the same rights that Protestant English would. So Catholics' rights become limited with penal laws, which are set up under Protestant William III, and they're created so Catholics could not become more powerful than Protestants. He really wants to push the Protestant Irish aside. They limit property ownership, so they can't own land, which means power. They can't get an education, so they can't power themselves with knowledge. They can't bear arms, so they can't have weapons to protect themselves. And he drives out the Catholic clergy, which we said are the church people. More key dates. 1801, Act of Union abolishes the Irish government and bounds Ireland and England together as parts of the whole United Kingdom. So, in 1801, there are no separate countries. The entire island of Ireland belongs to England. 1870s, Irish kind of get sick of this, specifically the Irish Catholics. They want a home rule movement, which means they want to be able to be in charge of their own countries, make their own decisions for their domestic affairs. And in 1912, a document signed by over 400,000 Protestants who want to remain in the Union among the UK. So here's where we get our separating ideas. The Home Rules, they want to get out of the British, they want to do their own things. But now you have Irish Protestants, who most likely derived from the English settlers way back in the 1100s, who want to stay part of the United Kingdom. So we get a political wing that's going to fight for the Republic of Ireland and their freedom. They're called Sinn Féin. They're political wing of the IRA, led by Gerry Adams. They're formed in 1905, a political group, and they promote Irish culture, and they want Irish independence from Great Britain. 1916, about 11 years later, we have an Easter Uprising, rebellion, where Irish Catholics storm, they charge, they attack the government buildings, and they declare the formation of an independent Ireland. They're kind of rebelling, they're trying to get a revolution started to become free from the British. The uprising failed, but it led to a lot of this terrorism. Here's a picture of them shooting at the one government building. And then a couple years later, we have the Government of Ireland Act, which finally separates Northern Ireland from the Republic of Ireland. So England keeps a little, and then they, I guess you can put it this way, they let Ireland rule themselves. So now you have another faction of groups. We have the Unionists, who are mostly Protestants who want Northern Ireland to remain part of the United Kingdom. On the other side, you have Nationalists, who are mostly Catholics, who want independence from the British and want to reunite with Northern Ireland. 1920, the two countries are officially separated. They each have their own capitals now. 26 counties in the Republic of Ireland gained independence from Britain, and 6 northeastern counties remain under British control. Now we have the Troubles, which is a period of violence in Northern Ireland. It started in the 1960s, so not that long ago. Catholics were inspired by the worldwide civil rights movement. We saw it in the United States with Martin Luther King Jr. You guys learned about it in India with Gandhi. And the Catholics wanted voting rights, housing, employment, and education. Remember those penal laws? Those are still in effect in Northern Ireland. And the Protestants see this as a threat to Northern Ireland's existence. So they start fighting. They start taking it upon themselves and fighting, so the British army is sent to restore order. Now, the British are seeing it as keeping everything calm, keeping everyone organized, but to the Catholics, they see the British army as invaders on their soil. So, the Catholics create the Irish Republican Army, the IRA, which is the Republic of Ireland's unofficial army. And they're organized in response to the British involvement in the civil rights movement. And they use terrorism to try to unite Northern Ireland with the Republic of Ireland. Excuse me. Have we ever seen terrorism be a successful means to a goal yet? Not that we've learned about. And here's pictures of some of the terrorists. This is an advertisement to become part of the IRA. There can never be peace in Ireland until the foreign oppressive British presence is removed, leaving all the Irish people as a unit to control their own affairs and determine their own destinies as a sovereign people, free in mind and body, separate and distinct physically, culturally, and economically. Wow. On the other side, Northern Ireland, we have the Ulster Volunteer Force. They're Northern Ireland's unofficial army, and they're formed in response to the IRA, and they also use violence to help its cause. So here's an example of them. Not very different looking, right? tough to tell the difference. So we have both sides fighting against each other for most of the 70s and part of the early 1980s. It becomes evident that progress was never going to be made using force. Instead, the IRA and the UVF begin aligning with political parties in Northern Ireland as a way to fight for their goals. So now they're going to try to do things through voting and making laws. Sorry about that. Continuing towards peace frameworks for the future. Starting in the early 1990s, steps were being taken by both sides to show their willingness to live in peace. They create a ceasefire, which means to stop shooting at each other, put your weapons down. In 1994, by the IRA, was seen as a positive sign that would eventually bring both sides to diplomatic relations for the first time in several decades. 1998, they had their Good Friday Agreement with 5 main points. The status of Northern Ireland would be decided by the people of Northern Ireland. Fair government established that represents Catholics and Protestants both, not just one or the other. The North-South Council was created to solve mutual problems. They would meet with each other. The East-West Council was created, same deal. And they would exchange prisoners of war that had been captured during the argument between the two sides. One of the most, I guess, famous events of the conflict was Bloody Sunday. It happened January 30th, 1972. Catholics organized a march to protest their inequality. The march is stopped by a British Army roadblock. Protesters threw stones at the army. The British Army uses water cannons and rubber bullets to disperse the crowd. Kind of like you guys learned about the Boston Massacre. Large crowd, protesters throw stones at the army. The army reacts with water cannons and rubber bullets. A lot of people there. And then suddenly, gunshots are heard, and within seconds, 13 people are dead. Others are wounded and in shock. The British Army killed 13 of 14 unarmed citizens. 13 or 14. And I have this link on the website for you guys to check out. Bloody Sunday, played by U2. They are very political band, and they're Irish, so they have a great music video about Bloody Sunday. The army immediately says they return fire. The protesters say no shots were fired other than those by the armed forces, and other witnesses offer conflicting accounts but cannot prove that shots were fired at the army. Men in the army responded to the gunshot. They had been under attack from the crowd for some time through stone throwing and reacted to shots being fired by returning fire. It's an acceptable reaction. It is regrettable that innocent people may have been as a result of the paratroopers' self-defense. That was what the official version was given by the army. The marchers say the armed forces were provocative. They halted a peaceful protest and were aggressive towards members of the protest group. The frustrated actions of some marchers resulted in the army opting for brute murdering force. They opened fire on innocent men, women, and children. We've talked about this before. There's always two sides to a story, and the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Possible explanations. Paratroopers were armed with both rubber bullets and live ammunition. They may have mistakenly used live ammo. The paratroopers were fearful of being shot at. The IRA was becoming increasingly active. They thought they were being shot at. They might have panicked themselves. Or the parachute regiment is not trained for crowd control situations. They are trained to be aggressive. The future, with continued peaceful agreements, the hopes of those in Northern Ireland is to move forward and begin a new chapter in what has been a struggle to coexist for the past several decades and begin the healing process. We'll do this together in class, and we're excited. Thanks, guys. Sorry I'm sick, so I sound a little bit funny. But if you have any questions, please let me know.